And we are live. So happy Friday is everyone. Run up to Christmas. Hope everyone is enjoying silly season. Today we've got the legend that is Mr. Matt Bull on the call. Matt is kind of taking 20 minutes out of his day to talk about his experience working with me in the 1%. By my account, Matt's absolutely smashed it, but I want you to hear from the horse's mouth. It's more important for what he says, not me. Before we jump into stuff, Matt, do you want to introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do?
Yeah, my name's Matt Bull. I'm based in Leicestershire, married, father of 3 boys, and I'm a business coach.
Nice. So busy man by all accounts, right?
Pretty busy, yeah, pretty busy.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So let's rewind a few months into the past and talk about kind of like where you were before reaching out to me, Max. I think it's probably quite relevant. Some of the gents might be watching this. So you've I think maybe seen some of my LinkedIn or Instagram bits, eventually decided to reach out and have a chat. What was going on back then that was motivating you to want to have a chat with someone like me, kind of what I do?
Yeah, I think the easiest way of saying it, I felt a little bit stuck. So I think on paper or externally, maybe everything kind of looked pretty good. Decent business, great family, lovely, nice house, everything like that. It's pretty active, doing the odd sort of half marathon and that type of thing. But it almost felt like there was something a bit missing, that there was a little bit more, and that I wouldn't quite say I was winging it a bit, but there was a sort of underlying sort of bit where I felt I just need to be a bit more disciplined, a bit more confidence in how I was going about things on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, there's quite a bit of noise out there from coaches like us. We're both coaches, so it was really that. I think your sort of approach and the way you go about doing things. I think I said to you, I kind of stalked you for about a year, probably just kind of going, is this guy, the real deal, or is he just?
Yeah.
I'm going to swear then, but I shouldn't because we're on a social media platform.
You can swear, mate. It's fine. I
swear all the time. So it was that bit for me really, and it was just that got to a place where actually I think off the back of the summer, which I think is hard for anyone who runs a business, you're trying to look after the kids, keep the business going, ensure everyone has a great time over this. Yeah. I just thought I needed to turn the screw a little bit and just approach things in a different way, hence reaching out.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there, Matt, it's not belittling where you were. It's a very common narrative with a lot of the gents that I work with, right? And it's this kind of like, it's all great on paper, and then there's a but. And the but's kind of like, but why is it? Because actually I've got all the jigsaw pieces of life being great, but I don't feel so great myself. I think something you said there about the confidence and whatnot, and then outwardly be like, yeah, you run your own business. What do you mean lack of confidence? Where does that come from? I think we've discussed this. I'm not just talking about you, Matt. I'm talking about generally. I think some of that comes from, let's say there's small areas where you're letting yourself down or not doing the things that you could do. Those little things in isolation aren't such a big deal. But if there's quite a few of those mounted up, it can breed this feeling of like, I don't do what I say and I'm not doing it. And I'm not saying like big existential things, but just those little things. But if enough of those are happening, that can feel quite unsettling. And then you're left with that feeling of like, what's it all about? And the net result of that can often be not great where you want to be physically. It has an impact on you mentally. And so it just creates this rocky foundation. But it's that weird dichotomy of, well, outwardly looking in, it all looks great, but I don't feel great. Why is that? And I think there's some of that. Does that resonate?
Yeah, completely. And I think the little things, I'm sure we'll come on to it, is what I think makes a difference. Because I think as sort of high achievers or people who want to grow business, live a great life, this like all or nothing, it definitely happens. It's like, well, if I'm not going to the gym for an hour and a half, 3 times a week, and also training for a half marathon at the same time, then I'm like failing. And I've just been so like, starting the year and going, I'm going to do an Ironman this year. And it's like, well, and even my wife said, well, we're renovating a house and we've just had a baby. You think you're going to train for an Ironman? Just completely naive and thinking, right, everything's got to be like 150%. And if I'm not fully going after it, then there's no point. And I think the little things is really important, because the little things that we've implemented in a positive way, we'll come on to, but the little things you don't do add up in the same way to create this version, this evidence, just that, well, you said you're going to do that and you didn't. You said you're going to do that. And then sooner or later, you're telling yourself, well, you keep saying you're going to do things, you don't do anything. So that self-esteem bit kind of just takes a bit of a hammering, and you kind of go in, it doesn't need to be like this. There's got to be a kind of a way of approaching it. And I've tried other ways before, but again, they were a little bit all or nothing. It's like, well, you've got to do everything. And it's like, well, actually, no, I've got like a life outside of just being healthy and that type of thing. So that sort of wheel of life roundedness is what I was really after.
Exactly. It's a Ryan Holiday quote. It's something I'm going to butcher it a bit, but it's that self-belief is overrated. Give yourself evidence. It's like, well, so it's like show yourself through your actions what you do. You know, like you are your habits, right, or not. And I can totally relate. I'm like yourself, coach, run a business, 3 kids, and like there's some of these big like things like a marathon or a Ironman. Great, have that as a goal, but like if you're having to car crash everything else to try and focus on that, it's not fit for purpose. And it's like I think what we all want, and we'll get onto this, is this background level of you're taking care of yourself, you're doing the things you say you're going to do, just happening. Not because you're putting loads of mental load on it, because like you just said, we've got other things to focus on. It doesn't sometimes maybe in the season of life when the kids are a bit older and you've got more time, well, fuck it, I want to go and do an Ironman. It's not so you can't do it, but it's being realistic. And if that's the only metric that you can use or thing to sort of keep yourself healthy, it's really tenuous because you haven't got anything underneath it, right?
Yeah, completely.
So let's fast forward, and that's a nice segue onto like where we're at today, Matt. So, fast forward to today, we worked together for the last few months. Like, what have been your, I guess, key successes or achievements having come through the process so far?
I think the key bit for me is probably like an internal one. I think a lot of the disciplines that I've brought in, almost this sense that, well, actually, it's got to come from me. Anything that I want to achieve, like, whether it's the relationships, the one I have with my wife and kids, with my friends, with my health, with, how my business is going to perform, it's got to come from me. And it's about getting that evidence in place that if you're disciplined in something, you can tend to be disciplined in everything, but it works the other way, doesn't it? That if you're not disciplined with your health, with your diet, with your sleep, how can you be disciplined with your marketing, with your business, with your finance, with whatever it might be, in your career, whether you're a business owner or you've got a job. So that kind of how you do anything is how you do everything. And that for me has been the biggest change, aligned with this sort of sense that it's within all of us to achieve whatever we want to achieve. But we don't do sometimes the easy little small things to give ourselves the evidence. And we're very good as human beings at putting ourselves down and what's wrong, what's next, and I'll never do it. And the self-talk can be pretty negative at points. So just the small habits that we've brought in as part of the process have been huge for me in that.
Yeah, and I think you won't mind me saying that I think when we've worked together, part of your thing, it's the same with lots of driven guys, is that inner voice is very self-critical. It's not the reality of what's occurred that's tripping you up. It's your perception and how you behave off the back of it. And a lot of the time for me as a coach, and in my messaging is quite forthright, and it's like, people say it's no nonsense, no bullshit, but it's a real nuanced approach, because for me, if you want to empower someone, just calling them a dickhead for not doing something ain't going to help anyone. It's helping them see, well, actually what's really going on. And sometimes, like, there's an analogy I got off a client a few years ago, which I love. It's not mine, a guy called Tony. And it sort of speaks to that perfectionist mindset. And it's like, you're driving down the road, you get a puncture in your front right tire. So you jump out and stab the other 3 tires. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? But like, for me as a coach, metaphorically, it's getting you to put the knife down and get the puncture repair kit out a lot of the time and recognize that that's okay. And I think our ego thinks if it's not the big thing and I haven't done it all, well, then it's all failed. It's like, no. And a lot of the time it's highlighting, well, you've done lots of other things here. And actually, let's look at your circumstances. Well, fair enough, you've got a young baby. So maybe that's a fair impact. Yeah. Now, the excuse might be, oh, I'm tired. Okay, well, why are you tired? Well, because I was up until midnight. Why are you up until midnight? Because I was playing on my phone and stressed about work. Oh, hold up. Well, I could call you a prick for not getting up and doing something early, or we could address the problem that's causing that in the first place. And for me, that's where the real discipline comes in. It's recognizing those elements, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. It's like, I think you said, on one of the modules that we did, it was kind of like this, well, you talk about going out and drinking, for example, and you're like, well, if you're man enough to go out and drink 6 pints, you're man enough to get up at 6 a.m. and, take supplements, do your cold shower, whatever it is. And it's just that self-awareness and ownership of our reality, I think. And that comes from a mindset, but it's also doing the small actions that actually just start to affirm to yourself bit by bit that everything actually is okay, you're doing really well. And this negative self-talk that I think happens with high achievers, I think as men as well, like we're pretty rubbish at sharing, like, if things aren't okay. I think vulnerability is a good thing. I've certainly learned that being vulnerable and sharing, whether it's in the WhatsApp group or even just with friends or with my wife more, I'm definitely a lot more open that actually I'm feeling like this, because I don't know, like as men, as high achievers, we seem to have this thing that we've got to say everything's okay. Yeah, everything's great. And then
it's not.
And it's not. We're the ones at the end, at the end of the day, have to brush your teeth and look at yourself in the mirror and close your eyes and try and go to sleep, knowing that actually everything's not okay. but that vulnerability is really important.
And I think it's tying that vulnerability with action, right? Because like it's and we've talked about this, and it's definitely something for myself as well, where you I think as someone who runs a business, like you said, I achieve it, we want to succeed. Like you kind of feel like, well, I've got to be responsible for everything, and I can't show that I'm not. And actually, I don't want to tell someone how I'm feeling if it's not great, because I don't want to burden that other person. But in doing that, you actually kind of make yourself an island, and actually you're robbing that person of some connection with you, because who are you to say that they can't deal with what you're saying? That's not your job, you know. And actually, it's not about going around crying into cornflakes and just moaning about everything, because that's not what we're talking about here. But that's just going, you know what, I'm a bit stressed at the moment, but then someone else can say, okay. And it allows us a deeper connection with your friends. But it's also then, if you're saying those things, it's like, well, okay, that's the case. Great. We've understood that. What are we going to do about it then? And it's being in that empowered place. No, I'm just really stressed. Then leave it there. Okay. Well, okay. So you're stressed. So what's causing the stress, and what can we do about it, and how can we unpick it? And it's being in that more empowered place. And it's not necessarily saying there's always going to be some perfect solution, but equally, I think if you're in that space to listen and share, but then also take action around these issues, for me, that's how you do that. Because I think the worst place is when you feel like you've got no autonomy and there's nothing you can do about your situation. And that's where you're feeling that negative people that can stuck. I think for me, more often than not, it's showing someone that there's more we can do, right?
Yeah, I mean, as sort of business owners or high achievers, leaders, whatever, we tend, I think, I certainly was really good at thinking about everyone else. So, whether it's my clients, whether it's the kids, whether it's not, and we sort of have this thing where we just think we've got to help everyone else. So I remember a chat we sort of had in the WhatsApp group, and it was like, just engaging with our partners, and it was just a real sort of thing for me. Is like, shit, I just try and jump in and solve the whole time. I don't just sit and like be open and listen and then think about what actually is going on here, whether that's with the kids or with Natalie or whatever. But the same comes when you sort of realize that, it means that I can be more open. Instead of me thinking in the WhatsApp group, well, I can help that. What about this? What about that? It enables me to go, I don't know about this. Like, anyone got any ideas? Like, I put something this morning. I go,
exactly. You ask the question.
Like, I've got two. Like, what you take? What else have you got? And that just being able to do that without, I don't know, fear of judgment or whatever it might be. It's just really, it takes a massive weight off. It really does.
What would you say to that? So then the group part of this is, I do some one-to-one coaching, but it's probably 5% of what I do. It's the large majority is the groups, and you come through the group process. I think some gents, and you maybe were a little bit as well, Matt, a bit like, group, what about that? What would you say to someone who might be thinking the group coaching's a bit wanky or weird, or, they've got, I guess, maybe more negative thoughts around the group process?
I mean, what the key bit is, like, don't overthink it, because what it is you go on and you share, which we don't do as blokes. We say that we take everything else on. We're busy with work and everything like that. So you actually get to go just process what's in your head. Like, I feel like this. Like, how often does the blokes or anyone go, I feel like this at the moment. It's been a good week, it's been a bad week. I feel like this, I feel like that. We've got the pillars that we go through: health, family, all that good stuff. So you do your own bit, which is processing, which I think is really important, because it doesn't just live up in your head. But then you get to hear other people. And for me, it was always just going, bloody hell, it's not just me then. Or, oh shit, I remember that. I had this go on. Or, oh, that's a slightly different situation. I can relate to it. So just giving yourself like more information. Like, you said, talk about being an island. I think as blokes sometimes, there's the all or nothing bit, but also we think we don't need help. And we sometimes, what's anyone else going to tell me? It's all on me, I'll take it on board, and I'm a hero and all this type of shit. And you see someone else say it. And I think, even the bit for me is the relationship bit's been really important. People just talking about how they're managing or making their relationships better. And you just go, like, some such obvious little things. And you just go, oh, that's really helpful, actually. Yeah. Yeah. And as you know, wouldn't have had it otherwise, because guess what? I don't know everything.
Exactly. And as you know, as a coach, some of the things when you're being coached or coaching others, sometimes I've had my coach when I work with a coach, like, I've always got a coach. I always say, if you ever work with a coach that hasn't got a coach, they're a fraud. Because but some of the things I'm like, are you fucking kidding? Like, they say something, are you joking? But like, you can't see it, right? And that's the same in the group. Like, you'll see someone post something and they're like, oh, I'm just doing that, and you go, oh my God, that's amazing. And it'll be the most obvious thing, but because you're trying to solve everything in your own brain, you can't, right? And that's the powerful bit. And I think the other powerful part, I'm biased obviously, is we see everyone's external. Like you said, it's like everything's great on paper, but everyone sees that. Yeah, Matt's smashing it. But you don't see your internal battles, what you're worrying about, what you're stressing about. And it's the same for everyone. So you assume everyone's walking around as this absolutely sorted, rational individual. We're all mental, right? But then when you see others sharing, you go, oh, it's not just me. I thought it was me who just stressed about this stuff. And that's reassuring. And not like you're wallowing in someone else's like hardships. It's more just it's just a reassuring that, oh, okay, yeah, it's not just me. There's other guys who want to push hard and do well, but find this stuff difficult. And I think that's quite a liberating.
It is.
Feeling, right?
It's a real leveler because we are all just human beings at the end of the day, and it's so interesting because you sort of someone joins a group or something, they'll be like, I'm a lawyer in the city or whatever, and straight away I'm like, oh fucking hell, like lawyer in the city type thing. Then you see the post come through and it's like, oh yeah, just doing the same shit as me.
Exactly.
Trying to get through, trying to manage the kids, trying to stay healthy. We're all trying to do our best, aren't we? No one's finished, are they? No one's perfect.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. You look at someone's LinkedIn profile or what they put out on Instagram, and fine, that's it. But it's not the reality, right? And I think being an experience, especially as men, like where we don't do that a lot, I think it's again biased, but it's powerful. What would you say, Matt? Would we say some of the key learnings or takeaways then from having come through the process so far?
Just for me, it's just like the really like little things. So you brought in like having cold showers pretty much straight away. So that's just like default now, and it's normal shower, smash that on for a minute at the end. You end up quite enjoying it, but that's just like a discipline. Yeah. And then it's just like, right, okay, regardless if I can't go to the gym, there's just a small amount of exercise every morning. So whether it's press up, squats, sit ups, whatever, taking supplements, getting the electrolytes in, no caffeine for 90 minutes, just all those little things. I think if you do that first thing in the morning, it's like you've done a few things. You've done some good stuff for yourself, but more importantly, you've just done some stuff. And we're not sort of on autopilot. We're making conscious decisions that whatever I've done, even if I've had a few beers the night before, I'm still getting up, I'm having the cold shower, I'm taking my supplements, I'm having the greens, blah, blah, whatever. And then it's like, oh, actually, I feel all right. Rather than like wallowing in whatever, not wallowing, but feeling a bit sorry for yourself. Oh, I should have done that and all that type of stuff. It's just that ownership of it to go, yeah. So it means, that for me, those really small little habits have been really important for me.
And that's where it feeds into the discipline stuff as well, because it's like, well, I think you said something earlier. Or I don't know if you said on this, but you said this before, like, how you do anything is how you do everything, or whatever. That sort of plays right. So it's like, what is doing a few core foundational sort of non-negotiables habits first thing in the morning got to do with running well at a business or having a different conversation with a client? Well, kind of everything, because it's like how you show up in one area directly dictates really how you'll show up in another area, right? And not one of these things in isolation is magic. It's the sum of the parts cumulatively, and it's like those little, because if I'd said to you probably before we worked together, okay, you're gonna do a couple of these things and on master you'll be feeling miles better, you'd be like, bollocks. But you have to do it to experience it. But then you become you're the sum product of that, like the emergent property of having clearer headspace, being more balanced, all the rest of it. Of course, there's other work we need to do around that to make that happen. But then it's not like you're having to do an Ironman to feel like this because you're doing a load of crazy shit. You've got a foundation of stuff that's just serving you, right?
Yeah, completely. And I think that's that anything, how you do anything, how you do everything, bit's really important. So if I've instilled discipline is just around a morning routine and stuff, it means that maybe the prospect that I've got to follow up on that I wouldn't have done before, or the whatever that, the bit of work that I just need to do, that an email that's going to take like 5 minutes to do that I'll just put off. I'm a lot more decisive about doing that type of stuff now. And I think from a sales perspective, when I'm onboarding clients, and probably how I'm coaching as well, has shifted a bit because I'm just coming from a better place, better foundation.
Well, you're more aligned, right? It's that you're practicing what you preach and you're doing what you say. And I think when you're doing that, like I say, little things, they actually were quite a big deal. Like sometimes I hear from clients, it's such a big deal. Well, they'll caveat it, that self-critical, go, oh yeah, it's not a big thing. This, like one of my clients, a guy Tom, he's like, he's struggled with eating sweet crap and snacking and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't sound much, but like he's now nailing it because he's built up some stuff. And he's like, it sounds trivial. It's not, because there's a commitment there that you've never been able to keep. And fuck what else thinks, and whether society says you should eat crap or not, you don't want to, and you're struggling with that.
Yeah.
And you put some rigor and discipline around yourself and facilitated that. And that feels empowering. And it might seem small to some person, but it's not, because it's a big thing you're owning. And every time you do that thing, every time you take the shirt out that fits you now when you're overweight, that's like a little chink. Well done, me. Do you see what I mean? It's those things. Well, look, Matt, I don't want to take up too much of your time. As we just said, you're a very busy man. That's been really, really great, and I've got a lot out of that. So hopefully anyone watching will have done. Let's say someone's watching this and they're maybe feeling a bit like you were, a few months back when we, first spoke. Maybe they're on the fence a bit about engaging with a coach, somebody like me. What would you say to someone like in that kind of headspace?
I mean, if it's a really obvious thing to say, but if you're stuck or you know things could be different, if nothing changes, nothing will change. Mm-hmm. So you've got to do something about it. And unfortunately, why I do what you do, and why I'm coached by you in this area is because it's not going to come from you. Like get some support around you, the community, just structure, bit of hard talking sometimes maybe, and start making some changes, because it's within all of us to do it. We're not, as you said, we're not talking about doing Ironmans. It's not an Ironman training program. It's about like getting good at life is how I describe it. And it's little small things, and the disciplines you bring in will just make you feel better about yourself. Drop a bit of weight, you get fitter, we get stronger through the program and everything like that. But for me, I'm bothered about like just feeling good on a day-to-day basis. That's how I want to live my life, feeling good on a day-to-day basis, knowing that I'm fulfilling my potential. So if you are just stuck, just do something about it. Like it's pretty much that, right?
No, that's a pretty good endorsement if there ever was one. So thank you, Matt. And it's that whole I've blasted this on social media a few times. It's like you're the problem, but you're also the solution, and that's the beauty of all of this, right? I think when people, there's content I put out before where I've said, it's your fault, right? Why you are where you are. And people get offended by that, and it's like, I'm not saying it's your fault that life has kicked you in the dick. Like bad things happen all the time. That is not your fault. What is how you choose to react to it. That's always within your control, and that's the empowering bit. And once you get that, it's like there's always something I can do, and that's it. So. Matt, thanks.
I've said that before, and I believe it's so true. Like your reality is on you.
Yeah, exactly. It's your choice whether you want to be happy or not.
Yep.
That's it. So, on that note, Matt, thank you. You're a legend. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Pleasure.
I've loved working with you so far, and you should be proud of everything you've achieved. If anyone is watching this and they're interested in having a chat about what me and Matt have discussed or would like any help, drop me a note in the comments or ping me a DM. On that note, have a fantastic weekend. Matt, thank you. See you soon.
Cheers.